Welcome to another explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the invisible architectural laws that literally govern matter itself. We often picture atoms as these chaotic clouds of electrons, but there's actually a relentless mathematical order dictating exactly how atoms build themselves from the ground up, shaping the entire periodic table. Here's the roadmap for today. First, we're looking at the blueprint of atoms. Then we'll break down the Madelung energy rule, explore some incredible exceptions to that rule, and wrap up with the history of the principle. Starting off with Section 1, the blueprint of atoms, the foundation of electron configurations. Now, you might be wondering, how exactly does the universe organize dozens of negative electrons around a positive nucleus without it turning into a total mess? Well, the universe is incredibly efficient. It demands maximum stability, bringing a really precise order to the madness. And that brings us to the Aufbau Principle. Pronounced Aufbau, it comes from the German word for building up. Think of it like constructing a skyscraper. You have to lay down the ground floor before you can even think about building the second story. Atoms do the exact same thing. They build up by filling the lowest available energy subshells first, like the 1s subshell, to create the absolute most stable ground state possible. But just like architectural blueprints have strict fire codes and maximum occupancy limits, the atomic world has its own hard rules. The total number of electrons in any main shell tops out at the formula 2n squared. And within those shells, the subshells are strictly capped. S holds 2 electrons, P holds 6, D holds 10, and F holds 14. This all comes down to fundamental physics, right? Like Hund's rule, where electrons demand their own space before they're willing to pair up, and the Pauli exclusion principle, which acts as the ultimate cosmic bouncer, making sure any 2 electrons in the same orbital have totally opposite spins. All right, Section 2, the Madelung energy rule, the N plus L ordering system. So the German physicist Erwin Madelung gave us a literal mathematical formula to predict exactly which energy level an electron is going to occupy next. It's known as the Madelung rule, or the N plus L rule. It simply states that subshells fill based on the sum of 2 quantum numbers, N, the principal quantum number for the main shell, and L, the azimuthal quantum number for the subshell type. So how do we put this blueprint to work? It's honestly pretty simple. You just calculate that N plus L sum for your available subshells. Keep in mind, L equals 0 for an S subshell, 1 for P, 2 for D, and 3 for F. Next, you assign your electrons to the subshell with the lowest total value first. What if there's a tie? The tiebreaker just goes to the subshell with the lower N value. Follow those steps, and you can beautifully map out the ground state electron configuration for almost every single element on the periodic table. And this perfectly illustrates the sequence we get from all that math. Notice how it starts out super predictably. 1s, 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p. But then, right there, something weird happens. The 4s subshell actually fills before the 3d subshell. Why? Because the energy levels of s orbitals actually dip closer to the prior group. This specific sequence is literally the reason the periodic table is shaped the way it is, typically starting each new row with the s block elements. Now, if you're calculating this for a super heavy element like thallium, writing out every single subshell from 1s upward gets ridiculous real fast. To save us from massive strings of numbers, scientists came up with a brilliant shortcut. They just replace all those inner core electrons with the symbol of the previous noble gas in brackets. Take argon, for example. Slapping R in brackets lets us entirely skip the first 18 electrons, so we can focus strictly on the outermost valence electrons. And that's what we really care about anyway, since they're the ones doing the heavy lifting in chemical bonding. Moving to Section 3, exceptions to the rule, the rebel elements of the periodic table. Because, of course, what happens when nature just decides to ignore the mathematical blueprint? Out of all the elements we know of, there are exactly 20 elemental rebels. We're talking 11 in the D block and 9 in the F block that just blatantly refuse to play by the Madelung rule's predictions. No way around it. Let's look at copper. It's a classic example. Based on the rules we just went over, copper should end with a 3d9 4s2 configuration. That is what the math says. But when we look at the experimental data, copper is actually 3d10 4s1. So what's happening? It turns out copper literally borrows an electron from its valence 4s subshell just to totally max out its 3d subshell. By doing that, it drops into a lower, more stable energy state. Essentially, the universe cares way more about having a full 3d subshell than strictly following our rulebook.
When you look at these D-block exceptions, a really clear pattern emerges. Elements like chromium and molybdenum borrow an electron to exactly half-fill their D subshells with 5 electrons. Gold steals one to completely fill its subshell with 10. And then there's palladium. Palladium is the absolute ultimate rebel here. It borrows not 1, but 2 electrons from its S subshell to completely fill its D subshell, leaving its outermost S subshell totally empty. It's all about nature shifting things around to hit maximum stability.
And if you thought that was wild, the F block is even stranger. Down in the super heavy elements, the energy differences between subshells are incredibly thin. Take uranium. It just steals an electron from its expected F subshell and bumps it right into the D subshell. But lawrencium takes the cake. The modeling rule clearly predicts an electron should go to the 6d subshell. Experimentally, though, that electron completely skips the D subshell and just lands on the 7p subshell instead. It's wild. Okay, but before you throw out everything you've learned today, let's add some crucial context. These quantum anomalies are super fascinating for physics, but they're basically caused by really tiny intra-electronic repulsions. The energy differences we're talking about are minuscule. In fact, if you positively ionize these atoms, meaning you strip some electrons away, most of these anomalies completely disappear and the atoms snap right back to the expected order. Plus, just having another atom nearby for a chemical bond can shift the whole configuration. So for your day-to-day chemistry, the idealized rules are absolutely still the gold standard. Finally, Section 4, History of the Principle. Let's trace how we actually discovered this quantum architecture. This didn't happen overnight. Human observation took decades to iteratively catch up to the laws of atomic physics. We started back in the 1920s with the brilliant Niels Bohr using old quantum theory to figure out that electrons on lower angular momentum orbits get closer to the nucleus. Then Charles Janet mapped out the patterns in 1928, Erwin Madelungen gave us the empirical rule in 36, William Wiswester brought in complex math in 45, and finally V.M. Kluchkovsky nailed down the deep theoretical justification in 1961 using the Thomas Fermi model. Because this wasn't just some single eureka moment by one guy, but a massive, collaborative, century-defining effort, you'll actually hear this exact same mathematical rule credited to different scientists depending on where in the world you're sitting. In English literature, it's the Madelung rule. If you're reading French or Russian sources, you'll see it called the Kluchkovsky rule. Others call it Janet's rule, Wiswester's rule, or just the diagonal rule. It's such a great reminder that science is truly a global pursuit. And that brings us right to the absolute edge of modern physics. As we push the periodic table into the realm of super heavy elements, things get really strange. Current models suggest these exceptions we've covered are the only ones up to element 120. But beyond that, the math tells us that extreme relativistic effects are going to take over. Predictions actually say the 8p shell might completely split, with one part acting as a stabilizing cover and the other just falling apart entirely. So it leaves us with this huge question. Have we finally hit the edge of the blueprint? Will the rules of the universe fundamentally break down for these undiscovered super heavy elements? Or is there a completely new, even more complex geometry waiting to be found? Let me know what you think, and as always, keep questioning the universe around you.